You know what I'm happy about the following story? It has a word count, which means I actually can tell where to slow down, and also I can tell how long each video is going to be. Yay! October 19th of 7 Days of Sunny June, Book 1, Chapter 1. October 19th, when it falls. As the crumbled concrete and broken rebar began to settle, Sunset Shimmer wiped the tears from her eyes, wondering how she had come so close to changing her stripes. Now had everything thrown back into her vows, despite her vow to change. It had been just 4 years ago that she had been the prized pupil of Princess Celestia, mistress of the sun and moon and regent of Equestria, the pony powerful enough to hurl the celestial bodies in their orbits around their world. To be chosen as a protege was an honor above honors, especially for a simple filly from an orphanage. And for years under Celestia's metaphorical and literal wing, the Alicorn had been more than just a mentor. It had become a mother figure to Sunset, enough so that at least once some pony broached the question of whether the princess had plans to outright adopt the young filly as her daughter. That thought in itself brought the unicorn a pride she could never quite express. But pride, sadly, always came before the fall, and it was in the nature of things for a daughter to eventually come to blows with her mother. And so it was with Sunset. Eventually blinded by her own growing talents and shattered by the attention of the nobility, due to her status as Celestia's pupil, she became obsessed with the trappings of her station. Consumed by power, it began disregarding the warnings of her mentor. With increasing frequency, and certainly without her mentor's persistence, Sunset had gazed into a mirror once owned by Princess Platinum, which depicted her as an alicorn above alicorns, far above her mentor. Possibly even more powerful than Celestia's vaunted mother, Faust herself. Eventually it came to blows, quite literally. Celestia, angry at Sunset's repeated abuse of authority given to her, sternly admonished the younger mare, only to be blasted by a bolt of magic from an enraged Sunset's horn. Hurt by her pupil's betrayal, Celestia did the only thing she could. She ordered a guard to restrict Sunset to her room, while the Sun Alicorn began the procedures to expel her from both her position and her duties. Fortunately, the princess couldn't have expected the rebellious unicorn to outwit her escorts, and to flee through the very mirror she first glimpsed her ideal destiny in. A mirror which turned out to be far more than a mere looking-glass. Eventually she arrived in a new reality, housed in a strange, non-equine body, and placed with foreign Byzantine customs. And yet it was strangely similar in its atmosphere. The city of Canterlot, while neither the capital of this world nor even its most important, seemed as though at times it was here merely for Sunset's comfort and succour. It had certainly been an eye-opener. Somehow she found herself in the life of another girl with the same name as she, and so the former unicorn portrayed herself as someone who had run away at home the year before and now returned. The truth, of course, had been different. Sunset had never determined what had happened to her counterpart in this world. Give that a few stories! But it was enough that she had a paper trail that the former pony could easily step into. She parlayed that into a life, offering to continue her education at the local high school, which, much to her chagrin, was run by a headmistress which was entirely too much like the maternal figure she left behind. Even still, she determined to make the most of her life here, or to work her way into the apex of this world. Even still, if she could not have the other, she would have this one. She used everything in her arsenal to rise to the top, methods of both the carrot and the stick. By her sophomore year, she had become the most socially influential person within the school, the kind of individual that even seniors, longing to move beyond the world of college, carried favor with, and occasionally feared. Even still, she knew her situation was precarious. No one had ever questioned where she lived or who her family was, and they never checked that address she listed until it actually exists. Far from the supposed address of 11218 Primrose Court, Sunset's real address was quite a different one. 306 Industrial Road, specifically the former warehouse of the Flint Flam Bros Manufacturing Co. The company had been an appliance maker decades ago, but whoever owned the building now clearly retained it for the value of the land, leaving the structure itself to rot. For Sunset, however, it was a home. A hellhole of one, she rarely admitted to herself, but the only thing she could claim. and thankfully one where, due to the incompetence of some corporate stooge, utilities had never been shut off into small living quarters for overnight shift workers, giving Sunset the closest thing she could have to her own apartment. But in the past few weeks, everything had fallen apart, brutally so. Through divinations, she learned that she'd been replaced as Celestia's student by another young mare named Twilight Sparkle, and the pony had become everything that Sunset felt she deserved, even to the point of ascension, becoming an alicorn. With that, at the first chance she had, she returned to Equestria to briefly steal the new princess's crown, and by that act, set herself on a course of wrack and ruin, which would ultimately end up with her being possessed by an evil power and having everything Celestia, both Celestias actually, warned her about thrown in her face, only to be saved by the pony she hated the most, Twilight Sparkle. It had been Twilight that united the five girls Sunset had picked on the most, and turned them into close friends within a matter of days. It had been the six of them together that harnessed magic, something that was not native to this reality, and undid Sunset's wanton destruction and cured her of her demonic possession. It had been Twilight who tasked the other girls to watch over Sunset, both as a type of jailer and instructor, to lead her back to the path of light. And it had been Twilight that had asked Sunset to give not only the world, but her own self a second chance, to become a better individual, and whether that individual was a pony or human. Sunset found herself in the days after agreeing to that, paying her dues and penance, reaching out to the others. She wasn't completely sure they were her friends. Not yet, but maybe in the future she could have that confidence. Especially Pinkie, who had been kind enough to put in a good word with her aunt and uncle, landing Sunset an afternoon job at the Sukacube Corner Cafe, since bullying students out of their money wasn't going to be Sunset's primary means of earning cash any longer. In the days and weeks to follow, life became a little more bearable, a tiny bit more tolerable. While few remembered that she had been the cause of the school's damage, they certainly remembered she had been upstaged at the school's homecoming and fall dance. Though curiously, the identity of the person who upstaged her no one could really remember, and that the Queen Bee was reduced to nothing but a mere drone. Had it not been for the other five girls, the shark that began to swim around her would have most certainly moved in the direction of the blood in the water. And as the leaves fell on the trees fell, signaling the switch from September to October, and all its brisk breezes and crisp air heralded the changing of the seasons once more, Sunset felt she was almost free of her past. She'd never be quite free. She knew that her only safety was remaining here in exile, away from the maternal figure she once scorned, and the certain punishment that awaited her if she ever returned. But for as long as she kept to her side of the metaphysical line and did not wander back to a world that didn't want her, she was safe and continued to live unmolested. With her almost friends by her side, she even dared to believe she found a tiny bit of redemption for all she'd done, both there and here. But life wasn't that simple. There would always be a monkey wrench in the works. Unbeknownst to her, an audit had discovered that a squatter had used the building. Going in while she was at school, they found her clothing and assumed to be a flophouse, or crack den, or who knows what. The easier thing to do would have been to lock the door and cancel the long-used utilities, running out the ladder as an unexpected expense for the past 4 years. But the building's current owner decided it wasn't worth the effort, and opted to sell and let the new proprietor deal with the issue. They were more than covered by plausible deniability anyway. Either way, it mattered little. A wrecking crew was now here, tearing the old building down, as well as a few other adjacent ones. Down the building went in a cloud of gray smoke, a bastion essentially pulverized to dust by the swings of a wrecking ball, and not at all gentle ministrations of bulldozers and demolition engineers. Then, as if injury needed to be compounded by insult, on a slightly overgrown patch of land in front of the complex, a second group of workers were erecting a sign, proudly announcing that Barnyard Bargains, Inc. would be building a new warehouse and distribution center in town, providing jobs and opportunity for the community. Jobs and opportunity for others, yes, but for Sunset, loss and hardship. Somewhere under the rubble was everything she owned, the meager possessions she built up over the past 4 years. Thankfully, she left her school books in her locker, but that was a small comfort. Just about everything from the former unicorn had spent years creating herself into a young woman named Sunset Shimmer was gone, leaving her once again as an enigma and question mark in the world. She couldn't cry. She didn't have the strength left to do so. She could probably convince Pinkie or Fluttershy to let her stay over for the night. But What after that? Where would she go? To tell the truth was the best madness. Or worse, could reveal that she wasn't the real Sunset Shimmer of this world. What if they found the actual Sunset Shimmer? Would some girl in Chicago, Vancouver, or El Paso suddenly wonder why she had a doppelganger assuming her life in the town she once lived in? And if so, what would be the former pony's ultimate fate then? She was so focused on her misfortunes she barely felt a tap on her shoulder. She turned to find a police officer standing there, looking at her with eyes that seemed to bore into her soul. She read the thin plastic nameplate on his deep blue shirt. S. Armor. Great! One of those kinds of costumes practically born for the job, she thought glumly. Could her day get any worse than this? You know, miss, he spoke in an oddly bemused tone, we usually don't get people down here on this side of town, especially on a Sunday afternoon. Usually only demolition workers are here, but while you've got the orange shirt down pat, leather jacket, skirts, and knee-length boots aren't typical OSHA standard safety equipment. Gee, she drawled, not working on overtime as usual. Must have missed the memo. The moment she completed her sentence, was all she could do for face palming. Princess Celestia had warned her repeatedly that her penchant for caustic sarcasm was going to get her in trouble some day. Looks like that day had just arrived. The cop, continuing to hold the stoic look on his face, folded his arms across his chest. The way I see it, he began, you're either really desperate to turn tricks if you're working this part of town at this time of day, or based on the stuffed animal over there. He pointed to a torn teddy bear sticking out from the under slab of concrete and glass. You were living in that warehouse. I'm going to take a guess and say it's the latter, because if it's the former, I really am not in the mood to write all the paperwork to explain why I just arrested an undersea prostitute. She didn't say anything further, just looking at him, waiting for the cuffs to be slapped on her and her life made worse. Countless records passed as she waited for his demand to put her wrists so she could be shackled, for him to lead her to the back seat of his police cruiser. But instead, a patient smile suddenly etched onto his face. Come on, we're done here, he said. I was about to go get lunch, and you look like you could use some yourself. A few minutes later, they were having lunch at the Burger Shack. Seated by the window, Sunset looked particularly nervous, because she was just a block away from the Sugar Cube corner. And though she wasn't scheduled to work today, the result would be to Pinkie's aunt or uncle walking past the shack, getting the wrong idea about Sunset being one of the police officers to end that job. So, Armor said, looking at her, tell me the truth. Runaway or abandoned by your parents? Don't have any, she told him. No, I wasn't abandoned, and I'm not a runaway. Technically, I'm a fugitive, not a runaway, she mused to herself, so she didn't share that info. I'm an orphan. From where? Cobb's answer was met with a silent stare inside. Look, kid, I'm just trying to help, okay? Don't give me a hard time. And why should you care about me? Well, one, it's my job. And two, aside from that, I have a sister and a cousin, both about your age. And if they were in this situation, I know I helped someone would care about their safety. Look, do you have anyone you could turn into? It seems like you're getting help from somebody. My aunt? Oh, that was a point of contention with her if there was ever one. Technically, she was almost 30 by her count, at least insofar as the equestrian standard calendar was concerned. But somewhere in the reality shifting, morphing from pony to human body frame and the like, when she stepped into this world, she reverted in age by at least a dozen years or so, along with all the fun of having to relive the biological joys of pubescence once more. Now apparently 16, or so her fake ID stated, it always irked her that everyone assumed she was younger than she actually was, and every time she heard that, she found herself practically wanting to reach for a cider, and not of the non-alcoholic variety either. She gave him a vicious grin as she told him, So what if I told you I was actually in my late 20s, that a magic spell made me look like I'm barely north of 15? Of course, somehow, he already expected that and had Pat answer ready. I have to say you need to stop reading those spellbound novels that are popular with girls your age, since they seem to be a bad influence. Also, You'd be an adult, and I had to arrest you for trespassing at that abandoned warehouse. He told her, but anyone can clearly see you're just a high school student. So you're lucky I'm not buying that. Anyway, again, is there anyone you could turn to? No, not really. Now, moreover, she didn't want any of her friends to walk by the shack. Not a single one of them. Not just because they think the worst, but she didn't want to be responsible if one of them decided that they wanted to take pity on her and beg their parents, or in Pinkie's case, her aunt and uncle, since her family lived on a farm in Arkansas, to take her in. She was already a drain on them by dint of their vow to Twilight Sparkle. How much worse would it be if she ended up living with one of them? So, you're getting your stuff by shoplifting then? He wondered aloud. The mall has reported a stash of thefts recently, and the main suspect is a girl, if I remember the videos on the security cameras. No! Are you kidding? I'm in enough trouble as it is, she spat. If anything, she wouldn't be surprised if it pointed to someone like the school's resident juvenile delinquent Gilda. As bad as the others considered Sunset, she was merely a problem child. On Gilda's case, there was a girl who was probably destined to spend extensive time behind bars in her adult years, if not worse. The officer did not look convinced. Then how did you... There was a stash of money in the warehouse, she interjected. Fortunately for her, that had been true. When she replaced the stained mattress she first used with another one from one of the unused beds in the factory bunk room, she found a stash holes in the first. Within had been about $1,000. It had been a fortune during the 70s or 80s, based on the age of the bills, but for a young woman alone in her first days in the new world, it was fate's wheel turning in her favor. Seeing that it was still clarification, she added, Look, it was sitting there forever. It had been living there a while, so finders keepers, right? Okay, I'm going to let that one slide, since I've no idea if you're telling the truth. And trying to find out is going to open a whole new can of worms on top of everything else. He stared at her again and asked, You didn't find anything else in there, did you? Yeah, I did, but I flushed it all down the toilet. I want nothing to do with that kind of stuff. Admittedly, at first, she had no idea what they were. Merely plastic bags filled with white powder and dried leaves, and she assumed it to be a chemical gear left behind by a shaman, similar to zebras on her world. But she didn't want to risk that they could be volatile, so she disposed of them. Years later, when she realized what they were, she was glad she got rid of them. Though based on what she'd been told, she could have really used the money for what their street value had been. Smart kid, he answered. It's clear that you've been taking care of yourself, and if I had to guess, you're probably an alright person. Just a kid on the rocks trying to escape some orphanage for a reason. He took a sip of his soda, finished off his burger before continuing. Even still, you're just a minor, and that means you need help, so... So? He shook his head, and she heard him mutter under his breath. Can't believe I'm about to do this. He looked at her and said, Look, I'll go and make a call outside, so I'll be back. Meanwhile, you finish your lunch, and you can wait right here. Once again, her mouth was running ahead of her brain. And if I don't? Then you better hope you remembered everything you just told me, because you'll be repeating the same thing in front of a judge at Juvie Hall. Then, the tone of Armor's voice indicated he was serious. In that statement, Sunset realized she was now trapped. Wordlessly, she nodded the agreement. With that, he stepped outside and pulled out his cell phone to make a call. Seconds turned into minutes, and by the time he had finished and went back in, the call was about 30 minutes of an agonizing wait. The three of us were spent cringing into her seat as none less than Applejack and Pinkie walked past the taxi window, with Pinkie looking in for reasons that were, as usual, only obvious to the cotton-candy-haired girl. Fortunately, her attention had been pulled elsewhere, and Sunset had escaped being noticed, thus saving her the embarrassment of not only having to explain her situation, but also why she was eating lunch at the Sack instead of the Sugar Cube Corner Cafe. As Armin returned to his seat, he said, Whatever you've done, we can get going. Where? She asked. Social? Didn't know they were open on weekends. Always a problem somewhere in town, he said sadly. Luckily for you, that won't be the case. That is, unless you prefer going there. By the look on his face, it was clear she wasn't going to get any other answers immediately, so that avenue was closed. Looking at her half-eaten burger, but was lifted for appetite bans, replaced by a sense of dread. Well, guess I'm ready for whatever then. Wherever turned out to be not quite what she was expecting. And you'll be expected to help around the house and some other chores, a woman told her, brushing the locks of purple at Gainsborough away from her lovely ice blue eyes. Otherwise, we're not going to impose anything on you that we wouldn't on our own daughter, or our niece since she stays over often. Standing there, Susan didn't know whether to praise or curse her luck. Wherever turned out to be the home of the cop's parents, in the affluent suburb of San Palamo, 482 Golden Oaks Drive to be exact. To make matters both better and worse, it turned out that Armour's mother was the assistant director for Equestria County's Department of Social Services, while Twilight Velvet, as the woman was named, had a Ph.D. in psychology. More importantly, she had the expertise that could only be gained by raising 3 children of her own. Furthermore, her husband, Nightlight, was a physics professor over at Camelot State University, just down the road, and was clearly just as involved in his children's lives as her mother had been. Standing next to her, Knight grinned his senses grown slightly. You can relax now. We'll be fine here, I promise. Of course, as my wife mentioned, there'll be some adjustments. For example, you'll have to adjust with sleeping in a boy's room for a while, providing that my son did clean up his room. Armor rolled his eyes. Dad, he groaned. You know, there is a reason that Katie and I moved in together. Knight just chuckled. And here I thought it was because you wanted to keep your brother from getting into your comic book collection. As the son rolled his eyes once more, Knight addressed Sunset again. Don't mind saying, miss. He's a good kid, marrying a wonderful gal, and I trust my son's judgment. So if he says he thinks you're okay, you should be. A thought suddenly came to Velvet's mind. Oh, also, where are you attending school? Camelot County, or one of the ones outside the city? The old woman asked. Camelot, ma'am, Sunset replied. As her eyes started about, looking at the police officer, the oldest gentleman, and the woman, there was something about them that the former pony couldn't place her finger on. Something that seemed unnaturally familiar about them she couldn't quite define. A light blinked on Velvet's mind. Oh, Tia! That'll make things easier then. Seeing a confused expression come into the teen's face, Velvet explained, Your principal is an old friend of mine. I guess I should call her and let her know about your change of status. Sunset's eyes suddenly widened in panic. If things were problematic before, things just went nuclear, as far as he was concerned. 20 minutes later, an ultra-familiar white Hyundai Tiburon was packed on the street behind Shining Armor's police cruiser, its owner now sitting at the table and looking intently at Sunset. I should have known there was a reason why I've never been able to get hold of your parents, Principal Celestia said, sipping from a cup of coffee. Sure enough, once informed of the situation, Celestia was over in less than 20 minutes. You know, you could have told me, the headmistress said, an apprehensive look on her face. Sunset could barely meet the educator's eyes. Please don't look at me like that. It might have been the human eyes that Sunset was facing, but all she could see were the eyes of an alicorn, a reality away, gazing at her with sorrow, hurt, and disappointment. I never meant to hurt you, Princess, Sunset wanted to say. I never had the chance to say how sorry I am. I'll never have that chance now. Is there something you want us to say, Miss Shimmer? Celestia inquired. Sunset had turned her head away, lest she let something slip that might cause even more of an embarrassment, if not make the situation worse. Well, if there's nothing else for me. My shift ended an hour ago, so I'm headed home, Sonny said. Mom, you know how to get a hold of me, just in case. That won't be necessary, son, she replied. Actually, Ike dug in his pocket and pulled out his wallet, handing over a credit card to his son. She's probably going to need some replacement clothing and other things. So, do you mind taking her? You can use my car. Yeah. Are my spare clothes still in Spike's room? With Velvet nodded yes, saying added, Okay, let me change real quick then. Call Katie and let her know I'll be home late. As Sonny stepped out of the kitchen, the 3 adults chatted breezily about things in the meanwhile. This, more than anything else, set Sunset on edge. She knew that the topic would change the moment she left, and the new topic would be her. How much would the principal tell him? That she was a Hellion? Or that she was an heir to an extra-dimensional being that had briefly become a monster due to her own greed and failings? Now she was being kept under control by 5 other girls who served both as her friends and wardens. Parker wondered at that point about the life that she had been buried under the rubble just a few hours ago. It would have been better if she had been buried with it. You're awfully quiet, Aura said to Sunset 10 minutes later, as the pair turned onto Apple Tree Road and onto the parking lot of the local Target. Yes, officer. I'm just wondering how much of this fussy and bargain I'm going to survive, she muttered. Part of her statement made her wince inwardly again. Though Faust in this world referred to a book written centuries ago, same course with her as she recalled when she looked at the Platinum's magical mirror ages ago, saw herself as an Alcor, outstripping even the most powerful of them all, Princess Celestia's mother, Queen Faust. It gave her a smile. Hey, you don't have to call me that while I'm off duty, especially since you'll be staying with my family. You can just call me Shine, okay, Sunset? It is Sunset, right? Or do you prefer something else? Sunset's fine, she muttered. You don't need to be defensive, he told her. I understand this isn't going to be an easy adjustment for you. And even I wasn't aware that your principal and my mom had been friends since childhood. This won't be a cakewalk for my family either. Mom and Dad, well, I'm out of the house now. My sister will be going to college in a few years, and all they'll have left is my little brother. And frankly, he can be a handful at times. But I know my mom. When she wants to do something, she'll do it. Logic be damned. Really? He nodded. Hell, I just vouched for you with my parents, which is probably pushing my and Mom's luck considering our jobs. After all, I'm a cop, and you can't just take stories in. Until my mom's assistant head of social services, even she's got to play by the rules. What we both should be doing is taking you down to the local family shelter until social services can find a foster home for you. But I meant what I said earlier today. I can see something in you that says you're a decent girl at heart. But it's clear you need help, and I think you're worth the risk. Thanks, she blurted as he parted, blushing slightly as a compliment. It had been quite a while since she had an authority figure of any kind give her a response that wasn't disdain, scorn, or apathy. Tia, tell me everything. Don't leave anything out. Celestia looked at her oldest friend. Vineville. Part of me wants to tell you to have your son drop that kid off the family shelter while you still can. You know I'm not going to do that. Philip said, taking a drink from her own coffee. Tia, I'm getting the feeling there's something about her more than obvious, isn't there? Knight asked. She nodded. Well, if she was just a mere queen bee, I wouldn't be too worried. Velvet blinked. Wait. She's just a sophomore, if I'm guessing right. She used the school alphabet? Celestia nodded. You got the sophomore part right. As to the other part, she was. Remember the incident at my school? That something happened tonight at the homecoming dance, and apparently the students got fed up with her and elected anyone, I don't really remember who, as the homecoming queen? Which brings me to my other concern, which is, she's got a fat temper on her. You could say it borders on demonic. Celestia paused to gather her thoughts. Velvet, you and Nightlight are my friends. I was a bridesmaid at your wedding. You were there when I broke up with Discord. Oh, now that hurt. I still don't know what you saw in him, Velvet said. Celestia laughed. Vel, you do know that he's a world-famous rock musician right now, right? Woo! Velvet shrugged. Sorry, always preferred jazz to rock. Well, I'm costing you as a friend. I'm not really sure this is worth it. I've dealt with that girl since she was in the 7th grade, and she is a problem. A disaster in waiting. I have 2 female students at my school that are huge fucking problems. Both of which will likely land in jail or dead. And Sunset is a hair's breadth of becoming number 3. Velvet sat there, quiet for the longest time. Night sat there too, also quiet. But his silence was different. Celestia knew. When it came to her old friend, it was because he was about to play Velvet, as people were fond of saying back in high school. When it came to Night, It stops Mangley and Fall trying to figure out how he was going to keep the two women from arguing. Tia, fuck you, Velvet said simply. That's real mature, Val. You're like a sister, which is why I'm being nice. I'd like to remind you, you're a school principal. You chose this job in order to help grow future minds, of course to shape young minds. Hell, if you didn't do this, you'd probably become a politician or something. But I can't believe I'm hearing someone I know so well give up on a girl. She's not a normal girl. No, she's a girl that's been living on her own for at least, 4 years you've known her? Can you imagine what that would do to a little girl? She's probably had to face tons of things completely by herself, and many of them are not nice, especially when you're female. Velvet rose from her seat, face clenched in anger. Tia, I'm not giving up on that girl. Someone has to be there for her. I suspect she's looking at you for guidance. Me? That's rich. Have you fucking looked at her? Really looked at her? She can't face you. Every time you looked at her, she flits like she was afraid of you. Me? But I don't know. Maybe you remind her of her mother or someone important in her life for some reason. Or maybe you're just a major authority figure in her life that she hopes she could reach out for help. And here you are, telling me you're about to give up on her? Really? I know what I'm talking about, she insisted. Just like when Lulu was going through that goth phase, using black makeup left and right and insisting everyone call her Nightmare Moon. And your answer then was to pound some sense into her, literally. Tell me, does he still complain about the arm you broke while you swinging around near now and then? Tia rose from her seat. That's uncalled for, Val. Besides, my parents and my older sister chewed my ass off over that. Or did you forget I was grounded for a whole month because of our fight? Yeah, you deserved it for being such a bitch. And Luna ended up spending a week at my place because she was afraid of you. Knight rolled his eyes. Ladies, every time you argue, you bring this up. Which means you've already blown your tops. And if you were still younger, you probably would have thrown punches. The other thing I'm here to remind you that A, you two will have to explain black eyes if you do. And B, we still have to discuss the fate of a young girl, right? We don't, Velvet said. I'm keeping her, and that's final. You're going to help me, she said, pointing at Celestia. Fine, Celestia grunted through her gritted teeth. But we're doing this my way. Got that? Velvet glared at her friend. A second later, a wide grin came on her face. Deal. Good. Ellie said, now, excuse me, I have to go call NORAD and tell them to stand down from DEFCON 1. 40 minutes later, of shopping later, Sunset Shiny returned to his parents' home. Seated at the kitchen table, Celestia. It was clear she had been waiting for their return. Shiny, if you don't mind, I'd like to have a word alone with my student. Fine by me, he told her. Katie's probably going to kill me for being home so late anyway. He said with a grin. Where's Mom and Dad? Both of them went off to pick up your brother from a birthday party he was at, I believe, she told him. Okay, I'll just call him later then. Take care, Celestia. You too, Sunset. With that, he departed, leaving the two alone in the kitchen. It didn't take long for Celestia to begin. I'm guessing you're wondering what I told them, the educator asked. And Sunset nodded, giving her student a salty glance. She answered, Don't worry, I didn't mention that. I owe a debt of gratitude to that alien princess for fixing everything, and I am a woman of my word, so I'm going to keep my promises to her. Plus, even if I could explain it all, I doubt Velvet would believe me, or Luna anyway. Besides, most people just think that the incident was a result of poor construction when the school was built. Thank you, Sunset said in a soft voice. Oh, I'm not done yet, Celestia said, and smiled to disappear. I just had to lie to my best friend, someone I've known nearly all my life, just to cover for you. Velvet and I have been friends since before high school, so she's like family. Furthermore, Shiny is marrying my niece, so that will make them quite literally my family. So you can see, this is very personal for me. Celestia took a drink from her coffee, then continued. So I want to make this crystal clear, Sunset Shimmer. This chance you've been given, it's your last. I won't tolerate any more lies, deceit, or whatever you have on your plate. As of now, Velvet will be giving me weekly reports on how your life is here. Likewise, I'll be doing the same for your schoolwork. So that means no more getting snips and snails to do your homework for you. Sunset sat in her seat. They don't speak to me anymore since, you know, she said, starting to wish she was somewhere else at the moment. She wasn't even sure they remembered what she had done to them, or even what they'd done to their new students, but the two did recall enough to know they wanted to stay the hell away from her. Good. Also, I'll be informing the vice principal of this as well. I know it's rumored in the school, so let me spell it out for you. Yes, Vice Principal Luna is my younger sister. But what that means is that in this arrangement, she'll have just as much involvement, getting a hold of Velvet should she need to. Understood? Yes, ma'am. Lastly, I feel that your friends must be made aware of the change to your residence. At that Sunset panic, no, don't, please! Though she kept it off her face, Celestia was shocked. She now saw fear Sunset had on her face, completely directed at her. She felt that you were right. The thought changed Celestia slightly. She forced her anger and mistrust of the alien teens aside. I didn't say I would be the one to tell them. I think it should be you. I can't, Sunset told her. Sunset, one of the things you need to learn about humanity is that we rely on each other. I don't know how things were for you on your homeworld, but if that princess's actions were typical of your kind, I suspect your species and ours aren't really that different. Maybe someday there will be an official meeting of the worlds and we'll find out. But until that time, you're just a human girl and you need to rely on, well, human nature. And part of that is your circle of friends. I'm going to give you until Monday to tell them, but if you don't, I will. I'm aware that you work part-time after school for the Kings, and as the guardians of their niece, they deserve to know about you and your situation. But that much Pinkie can tell them. Regardless, they are your friends, and they're likely concerned about you, as that's what friendship is about, after all. She drank the remaining coffee, then looked at the team once. Now, do you have any questions for me? No, but I do have something to say, ma'am. It looks like you really don't have much faith in me. Given your track record, can you blame me? Fortunately for you, I have a promise to keep and faith in my students, including you. At that point, the front door opened, and a second later, Velvet wandered into the kitchen. We're back! Hopefully you two had a nice little chat. Seeing the slightly guilty look on her friend's face, and the shattered figure of the young teen, Velvet shook her head. Tia, what did you do? Just as we discussed. Nothing more, nothing less. Celestia lied again. She knew Velvet knew she was lying. She also knew this wasn't the time to call her on it. In any case, I need to get going. Since you're back, and she's under your care now. Besides, I have plans for tomorrow, and I have some paperwork to catch up on as well. Both adults briefly stepped out of the kitchen, while Velvet saw Celestia off. She heard some light murmuring, and knew they briefly continued on our conversation. But it was a moot point, as a second later, Velvet was back. Well, with everything going on, I guess I should just order delivery tonight. What sounds good to you? Chinese or pizza? Since she didn't answer. She was still recovering what she had just processed, but Velvet had seen enough of that in her kids to know what she meant. Look, Sunset, she said, taking the seat Celestia had been just a moment before. Don't worry too much about whatever she told you. While Tia and I don't always see eye to eye, we do agree on a lot of things. And one of those is that you're worth taking a chance on, regardless of what she may have said. Believe me, I've seen much worse kids than you get hauled off to juvie. You're not even remotely one of those types. But since it began, and I don't care about that. Velvet cut her off gently. It's in the past, so let it stay there. You know, I remember a saying that one of my college professors once told me at the start of his course. It doesn't matter what you were in the past. If you're awesome now, no one can tell you otherwise. But if you're a loser now, no one will ever believe you were once awesome. And I've taken those words to heart. Celestia told me you had problems in the past. Given what my son told me, that's rather obvious. But I'm not inviting the girl that was then into my house. I'm inviting the girl that is now. The question is, what kind of girl does she want to be? Sissa smiled timidly. A girl who likes Mugu Pan? She voiced. Excellent. I love Kung Pao chicken myself. The spicier the better. Anyway, let me find out what the boys want, and we'll make the order. The boys turned out to be Nightlight and their youngest son, the 8-year-old Spike. As he ate, Sunset thought there was something familiar about the youth, though she couldn't figure out what. In any case, Spike turned out to be rather chatty and smart-ass for his age, and certainly bold enough to challenge Sunset to several rounds of Super Smash Bros. Wii U. It was he turned to be pretty good at, and that she completely sucked at in comparison. But eventually, she had to go to bed, thus sparing her further embarrassment. As he went upstairs, Nightlight gave Sunset a smile. Well, Spike likes you. That's a good sign, he told her. You'll meet the final member of our family tomorrow, my daughter. She and her cousin are out of town right now, but she should be back sometime tomorrow. You'll have plenty of time to get both of them. Hopefully. I think you three will get along great. Unfortunately, I have to work tomorrow, Sunset told him. Well, I can drop you off. You get off early, maybe we can all go out there afterwards. Velvet suggested. That's not a bad idea. She should probably meet Cadence anyway, Knight said. Cadence is a real sweetheart, and we absolutely adore her. Velvet yawned and said, well, it's been a long day for me, so I think I'll go out turn in for the evening. Yeah, and I've got grades to term papers, so I suggest going to bed now. Get up early tomorrow. Think I'll join you. Knight agreed. Sunset, you'll have to knock out just because we old farts aren't young enough to stay up watch Saturday Night Live like we used to. Besides, I'm not even sure what's worth it anymore since Wordplay and Smart Alec both left the show. Velvet added. Actually, Sunset said, standing up and stretching, I probably should as well. It's been a stressful day, and tomorrow's going to be just as long. Besides, I need to figure out how I'm going to tell my friends about all this. Well, you know where your room is, Sunset, Velvet said gently, and you should be fine. Unless you want to be tucked in for the night. Seeing the mortified look on the teen's face, the older woman laughed. Have a good night, Sunset. She stood in the center of a great spotlight. Around her was darkness. She was in her original form, hooves, horn, and fur, but something felt completely wrong to Sunset. Very off. Enough! A voice thundered, unicorn bristled. She turned to see the eyes of flaming rays looking at her. You dare to return, usurper! Celestia, regent of Equestria, mistress of the sun and moon, glared at her former student with enough intensity to melt steel. I'm sorry, Sunset sobbed, words catching her throat. I didn't mean any of it. You should have thought about that sooner, usurper! Celestia snarled, her horn glowing like a star. Instead, you nearly caused a cataclysm on 2 worlds and impaled countless lives. Sorry doesn't even begin to undo the damage you caused. To think I had such high hopes for you. I even hoped to take you in as my daughter, as I hoped you ascend. But you've met my kindness with greed, and chosen to take the left-hoof path. Well, I've dealt threats from before, usurper, and I'll crush you just as easily. Please forgive me! Sunset shouted, hoping to reach the mentor and mother figure she loved, or that she could say the princess was gone. You did this to yourself, Sunset, a voice from behind said. Sunset turned to see Twilight Sparkle, princess of magic, behind her. You could have been me. You were supposed to be me. If things had worked out different, I might have been your student. But here we are, and I'm an alicorn, and you're public enemy #1. But I'm changing, Twilight, Sunset said. You told the fight me within me to be the pony I was, and I'm trying. But not fast enough. Not nearly fast enough, Twilight said, sounding disappointed. Furthermore, you hurt Celestia. And it's been up to me to be the balm for the injuries you caused her. But those scars will forever remain, Sunset. I hope you realize that. But she's a princess. She's a goddess. She's all powerful and benevolent. Even the benevolent can be pushed too far, Twilight said as he disappeared. I told you were a screw-up. It was Celestia's voice once more, but somehow different. How long will it be before you ruin another foster mother's life? Sunset turned around to find Principal Celestia standing there, anger in her eyes. My best friend will suffer because of you! So, now she even continues her traitorous ways, Celestia's voice, this time the princess asked the educator. Of course she does. Does a tiger ever change its stripes? One Celestia asked the other. Never, the Alcorn said, her horn charging with immense power. This needs to be removed before it becomes a cancer on both your world and mine, the principal advised the royal. And gladly, Princess Celestia said, arcing her wings up. A huge ball of fire began to form in space between her wingtips. The spear of power being fed by magic by the princess's white horn. And all you had to do was being a distant pony, Twilight Sparkle said as she appeared behind the two Celestias. And in the end, you can't even do that! Die, you supper! No! Celestia shouted, sitting up in bed. She was gasping heavily, her heart pounding harder than the drum of her Discord's band. She found herself shaking, shuddering for the cold she knew wasn't coming from the lack of temperature in her room. Celestia, my Celestia is going to kill me next time she sees me. Sunset realized with terror. What's more, I deserve it. The tears came as the teen buried her face in her hands and wept uncontrollably.